Wow, sessions don't get off to a better start than that. I'm down over at my syndicate over on the Linch Hill complex. I managed this lovely scaly one this morning. All the carp in here are just incredible, just like this one. So I'm going to run you through some of the history and some of the carp that I've caught recently out of here. Yeah, blowing a bit of bubbles. Come on, I gotta get up this hill. Oh, so I've just put back that lovely mirror carp you see me just holding, a fish known as sea scale, distinctively with the sea right on its flank. Usually that does around the mid-30s mark, but because it's had a good spawn this year, it's probably up to the high mid-20 mark. So let's talk a little bit about Christchurch. Roughly around 10 acres in size, 100 to 110 carp, ranging from a good stamp of 30-pound fish to, I would say, right time of year, 15, 40 pounders. And for a little lake like this, that's a really good average of fish. There's a couple of fish that I'm still dying to catch. Unfortunately, I've not had any of the 40-pound mirror carps, but leading on to last year, which was one of my best years on the syndicate so far, I managed to tick Ben's common off at a whopping 46 pounds, so I was really happy with that one. But with the mirror wise, the one that I really dearly want is a fish known as cracker. Sits around the 42, 43 pound mark, but it's just, in my book, it is the perfect carp. A fat head, stumpy little tail, and a couple of little scales on the side. It is just the dream carp for me. So I've been on here 3 years now, going into my 3rd season, and these fish have seen everything. They're really old fish, and to put into perspective, no offence, my dad was fishing for these fish once upon a time. So fish have come and gone, obviously that's the way it works, but the fish that are still in here now, I was so excited when I got offered the ticket. I just wanted to get stuck straight in, but it's really different. It's a much different style of fishing that I've ever been used to. I've almost been one-dimensional in the way that I've been taught and shown, and basically that is day ticket waters, 3 rods on a spot, and finding a clear area and presenting your rigs on top. Whereas I've never climbed a tree before, never used braid before, used the fluorocarbon leaders or anything like that. So my first walk around was a little bit alien to me, but it was really good to talk to a few people, get a few pointers, and get pointed in the right direction as such. And I'll never forget the first trip I done, I was fishing peg 2, was just down here to my right. I had 3 rods on a spot, tight, proper bowstring tight lines, and everybody was looking at me like, this kid doesn't know what he's doing. But I did manage to land one, but then from then on it was very evident that what I was doing wasn't working. I would be fishing next to people, still stuck in the mindset of whatever I've done is just going to work, but I was doing the same rigs, the same tactics, exactly the same as what other people were doing. It's just my mechanics weren't the same. So I made the switch, listened to people, become a sheep essentially, put braid on, put all the leaders on, and then I started to see results and started to catch the fish that I've been looking at these pictures of recently. And if there's anything that I take from that, it'd just be step outside of your comfort zone. We're all here to learn. I'm still learning on here now, even in my 3rd year. There's spots that I still don't know of, but speaking to anglers, looking around, getting up in the trees, and that is the pleasure here. You can have a really in-depth look of what you're actually fishing over. And if you'd have said to me, yeah, 3 or 4 years ago, you'd be fishing half a rod length from the bank, I wouldn't have believed you in the slightest. But I've had some of my best trips on here doing that, fishing so close into the margin, you can really see how a carp behaves. So that's a slight brief into the history of Christchurch and my angling on here. So what I'm going to do for this duration of the trip is I'm going to run you through my bait, because it is slowly starting to change now. We're just coming out the end of summer, so my bait is changing, my tactics are changing. So I'm going to run you through that in detail, finish this brew, and hopefully put another carp on the bank. So the spot that I'm fishing out there currently is kind of what I'm stood on at the moment. It's a little bit more gravelly than what I'd usually fish, but that's also a good thing this time of year. With Christchurch, there's obviously a gravel pit. It does get a lot of weed, but lakes have cycles. And this year, we've not really had a bad cycle of weed, whereas the year before, it was really bad. We had a lot of floating weed and a lot of Canadian that just bloomed out of nowhere. But with this spot that I'm on at the moment, it stays clear all year round. So usually if you come down and this swim's free, you chuck a leading rod out and this spot stays clear most of the year round, which is a good sign because fish are getting in and around it and keeping it all polished off. So it's roughly about 90 yards out into the middle of the lake. I don't know if you can see over there, but it's towards the swim called Lifebuoy. My right hand rod's on the actual Lifebuoy, and where the water's down at the moment, where the camera is now, is where your rods would usually be, but the water's down a little bit, so I'm fishing it a little bit shorter than what I usually would. And with that, I'm still getting half a rod length clearance back to then I hit a big weed bed. So I'm happy with where I'm fishing at the moment. I'm confident with the spot. It is a little bit more gravelly than what I would usually fish, but then at the same time, it's also good. It's been fed on, it's been kept active. You'll also notice that I am fishing 2 rods. It is down to a little bit of personal preference. With fishing braid for a few years now, with putting 3 rods tight on a spot, braid acts a little bit differently to mono. It sinks in the weed, it lays really low with the contour of the lake, whereas with mono, it goes straight to the spot, doesn't really go with the contour of the lake as such. So if you have a bite, I've had it many a times myself, and I'm sure there's some of you out there that have had it as well, it's just carnage. Braid gets all matted together, and when you have to go out in the boat, when you get caught up within the weed, the braid that you're hooked on acts as an anchor point, so it makes it so much more difficult to land a fish. So with only fishing the 2 rods, I'm not being lazy by not putting my 3rd rod out. That 3rd rod is up against the back of my bivvy, clipped up. I've got a spare rig ready to go, because when you do have a bite in these situations, your lead is all tangled up in your net when you're coming back to the bank. It just gives me the ease, unhooking the fish, getting the fish safely retained, getting the rod back out, then dealing with the fish and dealing with the rod afterwards. So I'm going to go through a rig that I've had great succession on here and in the past couple of years on different waters, that being the noodle rig. I'm not going to go through on how I tie it because I've done that on my latest video on a different syndicate, but basically it is the exact same apart from I made a slight tweak with this one. When I was over on the guys syndicate, there wasn't necessarily a problem with the craze, whereas on here this year we've had quite a big problem with the craze. So what I've done is I've taken a piece of artificial white corn, the same 12mm wafter, and what I've put below that is a BB split shot. When I was using the other rig, I had a dumbbell that I cut in half, and then I cut a 12mm pop-up in half and put that on top, which almost gave it the same effect as this. But the only difference is, like I say, is the corn and the split shot. With the craze, they can sponge away at this, but the hook bait is going to stay on, whereas if I was to use a pop-up, that would come off very easily, and it has happened to me before. So for peace of mind, I put a little bit of corn on here so I know if the craze come along, I'm still presented no matter what. And the reason for the split shot is because this corn is ever so slightly too buoyant for this rig. So when I put the rig in the water, I tested it yesterday, and the hook's just sitting ever so slightly off of the floor, and it's giving off, it looks really obvious. And then when I added this little shot here, the hook sits flat how it should do, and then the bait just wafts around as it would with my normal pop-up and dumbbell wafter. So with this piece of artificial corn, it just gives me a peace of mind that no matter what's going to happen out in the pond, my rig is always going to stay presented. So the hook that I've decided to use on this noodle rig is the super wide gate beak point. So when I am putting it out on the gravel, I'm not going to risk dinking the point. So we're coming into late afternoon now, and I haven't touched the rods all day. Nothing's happened as I kind of expected. It's not really an afternoon water. It can throw up the odd bite, but it is very unlikely. But for now, I'm going to get these rods in, clipped up, fresh hook baits, get some more bait back out on the spot, and then we'll see what the night brings. 2 rods are out there, absolutely on the money. I must admit, it did take me a couple of casts, but I wouldn't settle for something that I'm not happy with. I want to be able to sit there at night knowing that them rods have gone out there absolutely perfect. My right hand rod that I'm fishing just on that live buoy, I fat a bit of weed as I was going down, and I can't settle for that. So I got it back in, back out on the spot. Perfect drop on both of them, really happy with that. Baiting up was really good. All we can do now is hope. It's 8 o'clock, the evening's drawing in. I do like it when it gets a little bit darker towards the end of the summer, I must admit. But for now, we're gonna stick the kettle on, have a brew. And with the way them rods have gone out, I'll hopefully be seeing you this evening. So quick little morning update, nothing's happened as you can see. Kind of knew that was going to be the case anyway, didn't really see a lot going on, no shows, any fizzing or anything, but I've had a walk up the top end this morning where there's a lot of weed together at the swim called New Dig, and there's fish all around it, as there is going to be. Took a leading rod up, can't really find anything in the swim called New Dig. There's a lot of weed floating about, birches. So I'm gonna give that swim a miss. And I've had a look over in a swim called New Bacon. Not as much weed there, chucked a lead out, and that spot's still clear. And with what I saw going into the back end of last night and this morning, it only feels right that I'm gonna make the decision to move. So I'm gonna get packed away quickly, get set up round there, get some rods ready, and get some rigs in the water. Straight away, I've not even been around here in 30 seconds. Sorry if it sounds like I'm whispering, but probably 2 rod lengths out, there is sheeting everywhere. So we're definitely on the right track, definitely getting somewhere. That is a really positive sign, seeing that. I mean, this weed's just a magnet to them. Feeling confident now. Wow, it's taken me a couple of casts, I must admit. I fished this swim back end of last year, and the spot has changed quite a lot. Obviously the water is down, so I've got to take that into consideration. But it seems a lot more weedier to where I'm clipped up to what I've allowed for. So I've just dropped it back a little bit shorter. Got a tiny bit of weed there. Smells quite silty, which is usually what that spot is anyway. It's a lot more firmer than usual, but obviously I can smell silt, which is good. That's what I want to fish over. But yeah, I'm really happy with that now. I'm glad I've made the choice to move. I was a little bit frightened at first. I thought the spot had completely gone, but I found it now. So I'm going to get all the rods clipped up, all the rigs ready, and we're going to get fishing because we have seen a lot of fish up here already. So I'm having a little look over to this weed now, and I have seen a lot of fish rolling in the weed, a lot of big boils that are coming up in between and in and around it. So I'm just trying to have a little bit of a let up now. I don't want to make too much disturbance because I want to keep them there feeling comfortable and just literally place a rig off the side of this weed and catch them unexpectedly. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to ping a couple of leads out, try and find a clearer spot, get a rod on it for the day, and hopefully try and sneakily get one like that. So the heavens have just well and truly opened. So I got out of that for 10 minutes, got a few rigs prepared. Exactly the same tactic as what I was doing over in Peg 4. Good old faithful noodle rig. I'm gonna put it is quite clear out there. So I'm gonna go with one noodle and I am gonna put one Ronnie out just to keep all my all bases covered. So that's gonna be the plan out in open water. I have found a spot off the edge of that weed, which I am really happy about. We've seen a lot of fish there. It's quite clear, quite bitty. I'm getting a little bit of like residue back on the lead, but it smells clear. I know it seems like a very silly thing to say, but you can tell by the smell of the lead whether it's a dirty spot or a clear spot. Like I say, sounds mental, but I can just tell by the smell. So I'm gonna put a noodle out there, a noodle and a Ronnie out here, a couple of spoms over the top each, and hopefully with this low pressure that we've had, which has been absolutely amazing, by the way, it's really like made the lake come alive, and we've not had it for a very long time. So low pressure, big winds, a lot of rain, carp stream, innit? So the rods are out now on both the spots. I'm really happy with how they've gone out. Cracks on all three of them. But out of courtesy to other anglers, I'm not going to put any other bait out, and for myself. There's fish in the area. The last thing I want to do is go and put loads of spoms out and just spook them off. So I'm going to give it a rest now for a couple of hours, leave the rods out on just single hook baits. And while I'm mentioning that, I'm going to talk about braid now. And the new braid that I have on is the 45-pound Naturals braid. And the reason I am using braid over on Christchurch is for obvious reasons. There is a lot of weed in here, and braid acts a lot differently to mono. With braid, it allows it to sit really supple on the lake bed, the contour of the lake. And with that, the braid's going to sink in between that, lay really inconspicuous so the fish aren't going to be able to see it. So with the braid, it's going to allow me to cut through the weed, whereas the mono would just bungee off of it. And with that being said, you'll also see that I am using a fluorocarbon leader. That just gives me a bungee for when I'm out in the boat. I'm not just putting straight direct pressure onto the leg clip with through braid. I'm using a leader to act as a bungee, and also when I'm on the bank when the fish are under the rod tip. So the fluorocarbon leader that I'm actually using is the 19-pound Illusion mainline. The reason being that it is in the 19-pound, I don't feel in the situation that I am in at the moment I need to use a heavier leader. If I was fishing up against snags, I would probably up it to a 30 or a 40-pound leader. But where I am at the moment, I feel a 19-pound is more than suitable and will do the job. So that is my setup away from the lead, and if you are in a similar situation, I highly recommend you use it. So probably the maddest 30 minutes ever. Thundering, lightning, torrential rain, to now putting sunglasses on to cast the rod. Makes no sense. But 2 rods back out in open water, really happy with how they went out. Had to leave this one for, like I say, half an hour because, yeah, it was just unbearable to stand in. So got back in the bivvy, got this rig all ready to go, and now I'm just about to put it on that spot out there. Oh, that'll do. And that is rod number 3 on the money. If you'd have watched my last video over on gaunts, my bait is ever so slightly different from that session. And this time of year, going at the end of summer to the start of autumn, they're really looking to get their heads down and looking for some big protein type of baits. So starting off with, I've got some 12mm boilies and some bloodworm pellets in here. Quite an oily based mix, but as I said, going into the back end of the summer, the carp are actively going to be looking for this. So the base of the mix is a high protein boilie and pellet, that being a krill and a bloodworm. And then also adding to this, I've got some whole and crushed tigers. And the main reason for this being is there is a lot of crayfish in here, and I just fear that when the crayfish do come onto the spot and they have a go at the pellets and the boilies, there is still some form of food for the carp to come in and have once that has occurred. That's a brief look into the mix, and with this I'm going to put probably a couple of kilos over each spot, and that just means I can get the rod back out on the spot and not have to worry about putting any more bait out. As we're approaching the evening now, all 3 rods have gone back out, baited up, really happy and feeling really confident. It's been a bit of a strange day today. It's taken me the best part to get all sorted, if I must say. It's been a bit here and there. It just hasn't felt... I've been double guessing myself, thinking, should I move, shouldn't I move? But I've been seeing fish, which has been really reassuring. It's been quite mild the past couple of nights, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but tonight just feels a little bit different. There's a bit of steam coming off the water. The water's certainly been re-oxygenated with all of that rain that we had. And I must admit, I'm feeling super confident where I am. Nothing could go any better in my opinion. Really happy with it all. So going into the evening, hopefully we are fishing for a little window here of getting bites. We have got to be off early morning, so all fingers are crossed for tonight. We're confident, we're happy, we're fingers crossed, and let's see what the night brings. Well, excuse me if I look absolutely messed. I have no idea what time of night it is. The left-hand rod that just felt perfect has burst into action. I'm shaking. I think it's adrenaline. Cold. Don't really know what to explain at the minute. That was a hell of a bite. Yeah, we'll have to go out the boat. That's actually freezing. Don't do it, mate. Don't do it, mate. Don't do it. Get out that weed. Get out that weed. Come on. Come on. Oh yes. That's the one we've wanted. And he's in the net. I've stopped shaking now finally. He's in there, look. Nice little mirror. Now that is what I'm talking about. I'm so pleased to be holding this fish. After I was double questioning myself later on this evening, I am honestly so happy to be holding this fish. It's the rod that went closest to the weed. Kind of had a feeling it was going to be that rod anyway. It's a shallower spot. More fish were in and around that area compared to where it was out in open water, that other spot that I found. Would you check that out for a carp? Scales everywhere. And that is your textbook Christchurch carp. They do go a little bit bigger than this, but for the time of year considering, well, it's just irrelevant to be honest. I'm so happy, so happy. It's still really early hours of the morning, so me being me, I'm gonna get that rod straight back out, straight on the same spot, and you never know, it could just throw up another fish just like this. You little beauty. Yes. Well, good morning. Nothing else happened during the night. Quite as expected. Not that it probably made any difference, but it probably did take me a couple of casts to get the rod back out on the spot. With the bait that I've put out, there was a lot of pellet within that. And with that being on that bar, I do just think there was a lot of crayfish about. The hook bait was a little chewed off, so I think that the crays have come in, done a lot of the bait, and the carp that have probably come in and had some of the bait, them tigers are gone, them boilers are gone. But really, really happy to be having that result. I was really questioning myself last night whether I did make the right decision on moving, because it is really difficult to make a decision when catching from a swim to move to a swim that hasn't really done a lot of fish in this season. But seeing fish is everything. I'd rather have moved feeling confident that I would have had a better chance in here, and lo and behold I did have a bite, so it does really, really mean a lot to me. And that, and not only that with the filming and everything, it is also a personal syndicate water, so it's really good knowledge to build up, which I'm really happy about. I've just stuck the kettle on, gonna make me and Brad a lovely cup of coffee. We're gonna ride the morning out now. I've got to go to work in the afternoon unfortunately, but nonetheless, it's been a really good couple of days, really happy with how the trip's turned out, and hopefully, with the rod still being in the water for the last couple of hours, we might just manage to sneak another carp. No more luck for me in those last couple of hours. Work's calling now. I hope you've enjoyed this instalment on the Fox YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to see more videos just like this one.